Good afternoon, everyone. It is a real pleasure to welcome you all as we come together at the close of a very busy season and just ahead of the summer break. Let me begin by briefly marking the International Day of Cooperatives, which was created this past Saturday, as it is a timely reminder of the values that bring us all together today. In that spirit, today's sessions opens the cooperative floor across generations, addressing a question of growing importance to many, if not of all our members. How to attract young people as clients of cooperative and mutual banks and engage them as active members. If we are to if we are to succeed in the effort to connect with youth, we must begin by listening, by truly understanding the needs, expectation, and ambition of younger generations. And what better way to do than by also including them directly into our today's conversation? Therefore, we are very pleased to give the floor to representatives of two well-established youth programs that give voice to young people's concern and help cooperative banks better to match the needs of the future generations. Their insight will provide fertile ground for the following discussion with high-level member representatives and professors about how to transport the idea of youth advisory networks into cooperative bank strategies. We are fortunate to be joined by a diverse, truly European panel with speakers spanning age cohorts and regions from Italy to Poland and France to Germany. To guide us through these promising discussions, I'm very pleased to welcome our moderator, Robin Feeds, Chief Executive of the Building a Society Association in the UK and our chair of the ESCB Co-op ID Forum. Robin, thank you for your kindly accepting this role. A guiding conviction behind today's program is the value of intergeneration exchange. I'm pleased to chair the opening remarks with the right hand of our ESCB President Priscilla Zaretsky, with you, Damien Poncela, in charge of institutional affairs at Crédit Mutuel. Damien, as a member of GSET and with a valuable perspective from Crédit Mutuel, I would be interested to hear your views about the behavior of young client groups and whatever cooperative banks can offer to them, particularly considering Crédit Mutuel, along with two other French cooperative groups, ranks among the four most positively received banks in the age span from 18 to 24 old years in France. Damien, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nina. So yeah, I'm probably one of the younger voices to be given the floor today. So to warm up, I really wanted to share really briefly some insight about how my generation sees things when it comes to banking, and especially cooperative banking. Because surprisingly, in France, young people often have a rather conservative relationship when it comes to their bank, not necessarily in terms of values, but rather in terms of habits. For example, 3 out of 4 Gen Z in France have never changed banks, and most of them are still with the bank that their parents chose for them. So to me, that says a lot, not about loyalty, but about how unfamiliar or even distant the world of banking can still feel to many of us. More specific to cooperative banks, over half of the 25 to 30-year-olds do not see a difference between cooperative and non-cooperative banks. However, out of those who do perceive a difference, 90% of them say that the cooperative nature of a bank could be a deciding factor when it comes to choosing a bank. And to me, that figure is significant, and it shows that values such as transparency, trust, and social impact do matter, but they need to be made more visible and understandable. And here at Crédit Mutuel, we have identified this topic as a top priority, but clearly we still have some work to do because less than 5% of our elected officials are under 35 years old. And as we do not have yet a formal group-wide strategy in order to engage young generations. But that said, our local banks, they have not been waiting for us and for our strategy because they have been taking action for years, and they have been launching, for example, generational portfolios. They have been participating in concerts or even festivals where they can meet a Gen Z on their own ground. And they also have been offering for years tailored training opportunities for our young administrators, including certified programs, in order to support their involvement and their engagement. So yeah, with all of that, what I just wanted to say is that me and my colleagues participating today in this webinar are really keen to hear from the far progress to youth initiatives in Germany and Italy, because we believe that this moment and this event is not only a moment and a chance to share some ideas, but it is also an opportunity to learn from one another and maybe to even spark a common ambition to bring some more young people into the cooperative story.
Thanks a lot, Damien. And it was really interesting already to get a short overview of the situation in France. And I would fully share, and I guess everyone who is joining today with you, the interest. And just to say, we are really keen to hear about the far progress youth initiatives, especially in Germany and Italy. We believe that it is a chance to share ideas, to learn from another, and maybe to even spark a common ambition to bring more young people into the cooperative story. That is, so the discussions are really bringing forward, I think, our reflection on what is needed are sustained efforts in outreach that fully land and spark younger people's interest. And at the same time, we must offer the right services and product and tailored to the specific need of youth, whether they are finished school, entering in their first professional roles, or starting a side hustle. There is also the digital dimension. A strong digital presence is about more than just having an app. It is about entirely digital experience for users. Intuitive, fast, and convenient responses are real the deal makers. Cooperative bankers are not only competing with other banks, they are being measured against everything else young people interact online with. Cooperative banks carry an important legacy. This is not a fruit of a chance, but it built on the deep substance of their unique values and operating structures. If we find the right strategies to open the digital, cultural, and structural doors to the cooperative banking model to young generations, the opportunities are significant. To frame this debate along the strides of science, I now have the pleasure to handing over the floor to Katharina Pesky, Associate Professor at the Department of Economics and Management at the University of Trento. She will offer the key takeaways of her research exploring young participation in cooperative as discussed in her paper, A Matter of Identity, Young Participation in Cooperatives Governance for a Sustainable Future. Without further ado, Katharina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I would like to share some slides. Why our study, A Matter of Identity, and why identity in cooperation? I started to think about that because in these last years, I studied these identity theories that, in my opinion, are really meaningful in order to explain the behaviors of people and the action of people within a social space. So considering that cooperatives are social spaces, I started to think about how to adapt this thought in that setting. So in this theory, basically, it is shared the idea that people and each individual, own multiple identities. So we can have an identity driven by cooperative values, but also an identity driven by other values, in particular, driven by financial values. And so these two identities, they can be in competition, they can conflict. And how this can influence the governance of cooperatives, this could be something interesting to be analyzed. So this is the idea behind our paper. And the idea was to gain insight about how to avoid the so-called mission drift, because in literature, our academic literature, there are many scholars that tell that cooperatives, they are losing their values and they are experiencing a mission drift. So if this could be true in some settings, why this? Maybe it is linked to the identities of people belonging to this environment. And so gaining insights about that can help to avoid this mission drift. So why focusing on youth? This is particularly important because we are speaking about the future of cooperation when we put our attention on this generation, the generation of young people. So we want to focus on them, looking at how their identities can influence the future of cooperation. So the study explores what drives youth participation in the governance. So basically, we consider the influence of two identities. The one that we call a cooperative identity, that means that young people self-identify with the cooperative values. They want to be perceived as people that feel very strongly the cooperative values. And the second identity that we identified was the one that we call a financial economic identity. It is an identity driven by economic interests. So we surveyed the attitudes and values of young people, and for young we used this category, 18 to 45 years old. It seems a definition of young that embeds even people not so young, but we are in Italy, and so this is the reason, because we consider the composition of cooperation, and at the end we decided to include in this definition even people of 45 years old. Anyway, this investigation has been done in Emilia-Romagna because it is a region of Italy in which cooperatives have a very long history, and so we thought it could be a good setting to investigate our research question. So our main findings, what we found that the knowledge of cooperative principles and values modestly increases the operative participation in the governance of the cooperatives. The time and social engagement effectively is connected to the knowledge of cooperative principles. But the formal decision-making, so the fact of being involved in the decision-making process of the cooperative, it is something that is not affected by the knowledge of the cooperative principles. It is something that it is not surprising from our point of view, because what we wanted to investigate more was effectively the identity, and the identity is related to the second factor that we found. The self-identification with cooperative values significantly increases the youth engagement. And this is something that we connect to the identity of people in terms of cooperative identity. So young people that strongly identify themselves with cooperative values, effectively, they are engaged in the day-to-day cooperative life. So this is important. The operative governance, the governance of the operations of a cooperative are effectively influenced by the cooperative identity of young people. And additionally, what we found that is of interest for us is that the interest in economic benefits, that is something that we connected to the identity driven by an economic interest, the identity financially oriented, this kind of interest instead is a positive driver for the participation in the decision-making governance. So if a younger person has a strong financial identity, this effectively influences its desire to be involved in the decision-making process of the cooperative. Finally, we found that longer membership correlates with higher overall participation. That means that the retention is a very important factor. The retention helps young to be involved both in the operative governance and in the decision-making, the strategical governance of the cooperative. So what we learn that there is the need to leverage a combination of multiple identities. So if people own effectively multiple identities, it is something good to leverage both identities. I mean, both because we consider two identities, the cooperative one plus the financial one. So it is important to recognize the need of both of them. So the cooperative should balance economic incentives with the social mission to avoid the mission drift. And then the education on cooperative values and the consistency between action and slogans about cooperative identity is essential to deepen the self-identification, because if a cooperative acts effectively, consistently with its value, it is easier for young people to identify with cooperative values. And finally, we have understood that strategies connected to the retention are essential for cooperatives. If they want to have young people involved in operative governance and in decision-making governance, they have to put efforts in retaining them within the cooperative boards. So basically, this is our research. I hope that you could follow me, because I had some issues in sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Katrina. It is a fascinating piece of research that you've done, and I hope that we'll be able to just provide a link to the research to everyone who's on the webinar this afternoon, because it is well worth a read. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Robin Feith. I'm the Chief Executive of the UK Building Societies Association, and I'm your moderator for the rest of the afternoon. And what an interesting subject this is. So we have been exploring for many years the alignment of values between younger generations and cooperative and mutual banks and building societies, and how they do seem to be a parallel alignment in too many countries rather than ever meeting. So I think the case studies we're going to look at next, the two interviews we're going to look at next, I think will give us some really good insight into into two initiatives that really have worked. So we're going to start this afternoon with Elena Farage for about the next 10 minutes, and then we'll come to Giulia Pitatore in a few minutes after that. So Elena's going to talk to us, and we'll have a little bit of a discussion around an initiative from the German cooperative banks, particularly from BVR, about their Neon Blau initiative, which is a network of 60 young participants aged 18 to 27. So I think we were talking about young being up to 45 earlier today, but up to 27, who are both within the cooperative banking network and outside it. And fascinated to hear, Elena, just how this is working. So Elena served as the brand strategy and communications officer at BVR since February 2022. She's also a coach for the Neon Blau board, which is composed of a number of five Z or Z EOs, which is a new one on me, but I think we all know what it means. And in this role, she's been very, very heavily involved in the project's development. So Elena, welcome. Lovely to have you with us. Let's just start, if we may, with a question for you as the coach of the Neon Blau's board. From your experience, how are young people generally perceiving the cooperative model?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to present Neon Blau today. Well, before I answer your question, I would like to share a short video with all of you, just to give everyone a quick understanding of what Neon Blau stands for and what our mission is. And afterwards, I will answer your question, of course. So let me just quickly share my screen. I hope everything works.
Do you have to create the future yourself? Okay, let's go. Let's stop speaking in technical terms and speak plainly and in Gen Z style. Members are getting older. Employees are missing. Views have changed. What to do? Instead of looking at things pessimistically, we see Neon Blue, the next generation consultancy of the Volksbank and Raiffeisenbank. Let's be relevant. Let's be current. Let's be different. Neon Blue doesn't say what's bothering us, but how we can solve it in our own way. For more financial education, for more community in the cooperative, for more sustainability in everything we do, for more touch points that make an impact, for everything that moves us in the future. Neon Blue turns a question mark into an exclamation mark. Neon Blue, the next generation consultancy of the Volksbank and Raiffeisenbank.
That many young people don't have a clear idea of what the cooperative model actually means, because it's not something that naturally comes up in school or on social media. But once they understand the core principles like participation, shared ownership, and long-term thinking, lots of them really connect with it. And these values actually match what many young people are looking for. They are looking for fairness, transparency, and a sense of purpose. So it's less about the model being outdated. It's more about how we communicate it. And that's a challenge we don't have an answer to yet, to be honest, but it's something we are working on together with Neon Blau.
Fascinating. And so you've got 60 young people in Neon Blau. Mm-hmm. And I guess the question that follows from that is how homogeneous are their views? Have you got do you get a single view, or do you experience the question of bringing 60 people together and getting about 300 different points of view from them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, it's something we were very aware of when we put the group together, because we made sure to include a wide range of perspectives, like people from both rural and urban areas, from the finance sector and completely different industries, academics and skilled workers. So no, there's definitely not one Gen Z voice. Just like any generation, Gen Z is totally homogeneous. And that said, what unites the people in Neon Blau, in my opinion, is a shared motivation. Like, they all want to shape the future of cooperative banking. They are driven, committed, and they want to be taken seriously. So many of them go the extra mile working on Neon Blau, entirely outside of their regular jobs, by the way, and for example, in the evening and on the weekends. So if anyone here still thinks Gen Z is lazy, that's definitely not what we are seeing. But coming back to your question, of course, there are differences in opinions. And one that stands out is the topic of sustainability. For some, Neon Blau, it's the absolute top priority, which also fits the typical media narrative, right? But there are just as many who argue that digitalization and AI should come first, and that sustainability, while important, of course, plays more of a secondary role. So yes, there's common ground, but also differences.
Wonderful. Just before we move on, and I think we'll have one more question with Elena, and then we'll move on to Julia. But if any of our delegates today would like to ask questions directly, there is a Q&A function on your screen. If you put your question in the Q&A function, other delegates can then see it and they can vote them up as well. So if there are questions, I will be taking the most popular ones. So do get in there, and then you can start encouraging your fellow delegates to support your questions. So I guess the final question for now, Elena, if we may, is what have you learned about Gen Z's approach to banking, and what makes it different to generations that have come before them?
I think a key difference is that Gen Z's expectations around services, including banking, of course, are heavily shaped by tech companies. Like Gen Z grows up with platforms like Spotify, Amazon, or TikTok, where everything is fast, personalized, and frictionless. So naturally, they expect the same from their bank. So they're not going to wait 3 days for a response or navigate a clunky interface. If something feels slow or complicated, they lose trust quickly. So for banks, especially traditional ones, that's really a challenge, but also it's a huge opportunity, I think, because if we manage to combine that tech-driven user experience with our strong values and transparency, we can really offer something Gen Z connects with.
That's absolutely brilliant. So frictionless, instant banking without any of the tech glitches we're suffering this afternoon would be absolutely fantastic, wouldn't it? What a wonderful way forward. Shall we move from Germany to Italy for a few moments? And so Julia Pittatore is joining us from Federcasse. We're delighted to have you with us. Julia is a young member of Banca Alba, which is Italy's largest cooperative bank. And she leads and represents the National Youth Network with Federcasse. She moderates and speaks at workshops. She seems to do an awful lot of stuff and is still a law student at the University of Turin. So, Julia, you are clearly one of the younger generation that work incredibly hard. And we're delighted to have you with us this afternoon. So we're going to talk a little bit about the BCC's Giovanni Socci network, which strikes me, we were just talking beforehand, a network that represents over 80,000 young members. So we're just about to start a league table of cooperative banks young member engagement here, to see what we can do. But Julia, would you like to tell us a little bit about the network and how young people in Italy are seeing cooperative banking?
First of all, I want to thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here to explore the future of youth in cooperative banking, and all the speakers before me gave me a lot of lot of points of reflection. So thank you very much. And I come from a little town in Italy, which is characterized by a strong entrepreneurial spirit that engage people from an early age. And as we know, even today, most established business leaders were young themselves, began their journeys early in life, their ventures that led them to outstanding achievements. And in my hometown, shortly after the Second World War, there was a young man called Michele Ferrero, who was just 20 at that time. And even at such a young age, he began selling dark chocolate bars throughout the town and around the villages, driving a little van and working with the small familiar business founded by his father, Pietro, and later managed by his uncle. And I won't tell you the story of Michele Ferrero business entrepreneurial journey, because I think it is well known, but I think this illustrates the vital role that young people could play, and the importance of credit system as an essential element for turning life aspiration and life projects into realities. And many young individuals, thanks to the support of cooperative banks, nowadays are able to pursue and to developing their entrepreneurial ventures. And the BCC model is surely the one of the type of banking which is most which is the closer to young people. And as young people, we often do not require large amount of loans or capital, but we need someone who believe in us, someone who support us through our educational, personal, entrepreneurial journeys, and someone who believe in our business that contributes to the prosperity of our communities. And someone who offer us helping some help in managing our savings. And we find all those things in a cooperative banking. So I'm proud to represent many young people who, whether by personal choice or through the legacy of their parents or grandparents who became members of a cooperative bank before them, are not only members of a cooperative bank, but they are, more important, active participant in cooperative movement. So it's important. Our model of banking, we know it has a strong connection with local communities. For example, in Italy, in more than 8,000 municipalities, the Italian BCC represent the only banking present. So it's I think all those little elements can help and motivate so young people to young Italian people to stay engaged and to join a cooperative and become a cooperative member. So
thank you, Julia. It sounds like you've, I mean, that was incredibly positive. And sounds like you might have just have solved the question about how we bring younger generations and cooperative banks in terms of, you know, aligned values, actually bring those values together rather than having them purely running alongside each other. There's a couple of questions in the box as well, and I think one of them, which I know is one that I'm always fascinated by, and we'll come back to a little bit later, is about how we communicate the values to younger generations and the channels we can use for doing that. But that does lead us to the question about how cooperative ideas can still be attractive in our societies of relative prosperity, and indeed what you see as the challenges for the future.
I think that as a president of BCC Giovani Soci Network, one challenge for sure is to keep involving and letting the governance of cooperative banks, the senior governance of cooperative banks in Italy, to recognize the importance of involving new generation, because as we know, a younger membership is vital for the future sustainability of cooperative banking. And many progress have been accomplished, and for the future I see maybe two challenges. One represent the communication, and maybe the question it was about that. So to try to communicating our values in a more smartest way, in a communication more fresh, made for young people, because sometimes the institutional communication doesn't arrive to young people, and this is what we try to do as the BCC Giovani Soci Network, because we organized many moments of to let the people know the values, and in order to engage new generation. And the other is about the EA and the digitalization, because the EA is an opportunity, and I see it in studying law. It's an opportunity also in community banking, and the challenge I think will be to evolve through digital channels, to offering many services online, but without losing our greatest strength, which is being a relationship banking. So I think this is the most important challenge we have to face.
Thank you so much. So I think, sadly, we could carry on talking in this session for a long time, but sadly we're going to have to bring it to a close. But I think there's huge optimism here and huge positivity, which is just wonderful to hear. And I think I think we know, or we have learned, and probably knew already, the importance of great communication and of frictionless digital banking. If I had two key takeaways from this session in terms of the service we need to provide, and then the topic, the importance of values and of values that are important to community and to individuals, as well as the values of just good banking. So look, it's time to say thank you very much to Elena and Julia. And we're going to now move straight on, if you don't mind, to a panel session. So let me just very briefly ask we have three panelists, and I think let me give them a very brief introduction, and then we'll go straight into some discussion topics. So first of all, we've got Małgorzata Iwanicz-Drozdowa from Poland with us. We have Francesco Polo, who's again from Italy, and then we have Mark Vegan, who's joining us from Germany, from BVR. So really delighted to have you all with us this afternoon. And shall we move straight in? So straight into some. I think we've got sort of three areas to pick up on, some strategies that your organizations are engaging with or carrying out to engage with the younger generations. How you actually measure success. What does success look like? What do the achievements look like? And then what are some of the lessons we've learned? So Francesco, should we start with you? Welcome, lovely to have you with us. So what specific strategies do you think are working well in activating the younger generation, first of all, recruiting them as customers and members, and then making them active members and advocates for the bank?
Thank you, Robbie. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, let me thank you, of course, for the invitation, and would also like to share how life is constantly a surprise. And actually the world is small and really connected, because I see that President Ivanits Todroska is a professor of Warsaw School of Economics. And it's a university that hosted me as an exchange student from Bocconi University already more than 10 years ago. So actually the world is very small and well connected. Regarding your question, Robin, Giulia Pittatore mentioned a lot of initiatives that the Giovani Soci Network already is doing, and it was very able to scale up. You said 80,000 Giovani Soci engaged, so it's a very huge result, and I think it's important to emphasize that. But what I want to focus is actually to focus a little bit in the first part on two main drivers that may be important to scale up with the youth cohorts in our society now. And they're actually simple, and it's time and values, I would say. Our bank, as an Italian system, are guided by the parent banks and are investing huge amount of resources in doing our job without while keeping up with the times. So digitalizing our bank services, investing in quality relations, and consultancy in branches. And believe me, in this sense, youth cohorts focus a lot on the innovative capabilities of our bank. If you look old in your core services, you're not able to scale up. And this is the first dimension that I would like to stress a little bit. But the second driver is related to values, to our values. Do our job in connection with our native values, relation, and territorial are crucial. You cannot say to your report that you care about the territory only because you do philanthropy. Sometimes you do some important things with your society, but you must sometimes to get your hands dirty, to need to be the leaven of the territory, like our Pope Francis said to young economists. So I would like to stress a point on an example that we faced in our Giovani Network section with the Federation, Federcas, in our regional location. Giulia mentioned that there is an annual forum that all the Giovani Soci are engaged together. And I would like to say that every forum is organized in a public and a specific territory, and Federcas organized it with us, with the collaboration of the Regional Federation of Cooperative Banks. That's the crucial spirit of our movement, being global, connected, but with the root in every territory. It was the same spirit that drove us in 2024 when we did the spring school in Padova, from where I'm talking to you, an annual school for youth members that increased the awareness of these cooperative values. And actually, with the education that Professor Pesci before was mentioning as an important takeaways for being able to scale up with the youth cohorts and Gen Z in this cooperative model.
Wonderful, thank you. So look, let's move straight on. We'll go. If we're quick, we may get 2 rounds of questions, and if not, we'll just take the first. But Mark, lovely to have you with us as well from BVR. Now we've heard a little bit about Neon Blau already, but as a standout model of co-creation with young people, how did it come about? And how would you, what would you recommend to others who would love to to replicate the model you have in Germany elsewhere?
Yeah, Robin, thanks a million for the question. And first of all, thank you all for participating here. So why did we start? The average age in Germany is 47 years. The average age of our customers is 50 years. The average age of our members is 55 years. So we have to do something. And the question was, how can we generally involve young people and not just target them with media campaigns? It's so easy to use Spotify or TikTok to target young people. But the thing is, then we are not talking with them, we are talking about them. And in our decision-making boards, I'm sorry to say, they are all male, aged 55 and older, and then make the decision what the young generation wants. And I'm so convinced that this is not true. So we made the principle, don't just talk about the Gen Z, let's talk with them. And that was quite a change for organization. And what makes Neon Blau special, and what I would probably recommend to others, there are a couple of things. The first thing is we have to treat them and involve them as equals. They don't just need to give us feedback. They must have the chance to shape ideas, to test formats, and to push things forward. So we not just listen to them, we gave them a budget. So this is your idea, there's your blank check, just go and make it real. Second, there is no fixed agenda. We are not taking notes of any meeting. We don't just hand them a brief, we let them in the process involve. And that openness leads to surprising and powerful ideas. The third one is it's hands-on. They surely work very closely with our marketing, product, and sustainabilities. So the input isn't just abstract. You have to have a grip on. And from my point of view, Robin, the most important thing is that the ideas don't just sit on a shelf somewhere and we say, hey, we got Neon Blau. We test them, we pilot them, and sometimes we scale them high. Not every time, but sometimes they're so good that we can scale them. And like for Germans, it's for our decision makers difficult to say you to me. So like to speak with the first name. And what really surprised us, all our top CEOs, they now say, okay, the Neon Blau can speak with them with the first name. That sounds a bit funny, but that's a sign that they really take it seriously. So those would be my 4 recommendations, Robin, from a point of view after 1.5 years experience.
That's absolutely brilliant, Mark, and such wisdom, I think, of in terms of, from everything from from talking with them as equals,
yeah.
and in their language, and taking them seriously.
Yeah.
I think this feels like something that you could roll out worldwide, or you could probably license and share with others accordingly. It's absolutely brilliant. Małgorzata, lovely to have you with us from Poland. Forgive my appalling Polish pronunciation, but fantastic to have you with us. So, would you like to tell us a little bit about the programs being piloted at KZBS and what you're learning from that, and what's been so critical in getting them off the ground?
With pleasure, I will present the most important programs, educational programs. Of course, the poor pronunciation is forgiven, so no problem. That's always the case, or pretty often. Let me share the screen. First, I would like to show you some, let's say, educational programs that we developed in Poland. But before I start, I would like to stress that we have 2 separate cooperative banking groups in Poland. One is called BPS, the second one is called SGB, and a couple of independent banks. And what is presented here are some educational programs developed by both banking groups and some, let's say, educational programs developed by KZBS as an association of cooperative banks. So let me start with the one that is in the center. You can see here the letters SKO. SKO in Polish, it stands for, let's say, School Savings Bank. And this is a long-lasting program with a good track record. I even remember SKO when I was a kid, so it must be even many, many decades ago. Currently, cooperative banks are also involved in this school savings banks. They are teaching young people how to save money. And with the use of these 3 letters, one of the groups developed another targeted program in order to stimulate competition, in order to teach the young people how to do the business, how to start a business, how to present ideas. And this program is called Talentowisko. It's something linked to searching for young talents. Okay. The outreach of this program is very broad, and this program is popular. Many young people are involved. They are preparing their own projects, and they are under the promotion of local cooperative banks. So this is a very good idea, a very good program. Also, within the same banking group, a new program was developed this year. It's about making movies. There was a competition for young people to present idea for a movie, and they were invited to the specific workshops with professionals in order to gain new knowledge and be able to do the movies. Another issue is with games, and another group, SGB, presented the city game. That was also, let's say, spread all over the Poland, and banks were inviting young people to play together. Okay, it was also a good idea, pretty popular solution. And the first 2 that I have on the screen is, let's say, money first class. We did this competition last year. We were asking young people to send us their pictures or information about cooperative banks in Poland. How do they evaluate local banks' operations? What is good? What is bad? And then we selected the winners. The winners were awarded with just some money, okay, or vouchers. And this year we ran a social media challenge also for young people. It's on the way, so we are evaluating the projects in order to, let's say, select the winners. Another educational things are spread all over the country. So regular meetings with kids, small kids, or with the youth at schools, at universities. And what is here, it's a logo of, let's say, June, for the month of June, Banks with Heart. Okay, this year we ran a, let's say, information campaign, Banks with Hearts, in order to show what is the DNA of cooperative banks, that they are ready to help, that they are helping communities, and so on and so forth. Last year, because last year was the year of economic education in Poland, we also prepared a short movie, short story for kids in order to teach them how the banks work. And pretty new thing, this year, bank operating in western part of Poland set up Youth Advisory Council, and it's called Bank of Young Minds. This is something similar that Francesco discussed before. So young people were invited to say what is good, what is wrong, to participate, to express their own point of view. Also, Mark presented how they cooperate with Gen Z, and this is something for Gen Z, targeted at Gen Z, and shortly also to Gen Alpha, okay, another type of animal. And maybe, I hope so, this is the first step. Maybe other banks would like to follow this kind of cooperation with Gen Z representatives. And the last thing, last but not least, because the whole story of focusing on youngs was the awareness that due to the aging of societies, we have to attract as many young customers as possible. They are necessary to stay on the market, to develop on the market, and to retain cooperative status. And a couple of years ago, we started to moderate the discussion about the young people in the cooperative banking. And just for last years, we observed many campaigns targeted at young people. And here we have examples from both cooperative banking groups. The first example is Young Wolves. Wolf is here on the credit card, on the debit card. This is the story about Young Wolves, and promotional campaigns depending on the time on the year, either in winter or let's say in spring. Banks try to attract new customers, younger customers, and to provoke them to use cooperative banking services. In the middle, we have another ad targeted at people below 13. So the young people, please come, open. We are good. We are a good bank. We offer everything you need. So these were just a couple of examples. Of course, because time is limited, I limited let's say the visuals to 4 pieces. But of course, there are plenty of other local initiatives that are available in Poland. This is just a short summary. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And I think I'm sensing all sorts of opportunities for EACB here to be sharing case studies across its membership in ways of international cooperation as well as national cooperation. So fantastic. Now, social media has been mentioned a couple of times and has been and was also in the Q&A. And I must say I was massively encouraged yesterday in the UK, because for the first time in very, very simple language, we heard from one of our senior regulators that they have recognized that legitimate banks, building societies and financial services providers need to be on all social media channels, because if we're not there, the space is entirely filled by by unauthorized influencers, criminals, Bitcoin vendors, and everything else. It's taken them a long time to get there, but I very much hope that that's a precedent that we will see, if it has not already been replicated across Europe, replicated very, very quickly. That regulation should not, should encourage legitimate financial services providers to be on TikTok and Insta and whichever other channels are emerging as being the places where younger generations get their information and their financial advice. I hope. I think we probably haven't got time for a discussion on that, but hopefully that's some good news from this side of the English Channel, and I hope it's as I say, it's one that we will see everywhere. Shall we move on to measuring impact? And Małgorzata, I'm going to come back to you again. Let's carry on do a back-to-back, if you like, on questions about just the long-term benefits that you foresee for cooperative banks attracting young clients and members. And I love that distinction between. I always draw the distinction between client and member as being passive customer and active advocate for the organization. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm sure that cooperative banks need both customers and active members, and of course Gen Z and then Gen Alpha are the target groups, and actually, as I mentioned, due to aging of societies, the young generation shall be treated as a kind of rare earth elements. Okay, they are necessary to survive on the market, and banks really need to attract young generation as customers and also as members in order to maintain its status and the market position. Okay, without young generation, it won't be possible in the future. Okay, so I think that the awareness among bankers, cooperative bankers, and also cooperative banking groups has been increasing over time. as I mentioned, we stimulated discussion about the role of young people in cooperative banking. And we need further steps in order to continue the efforts to explain to young people what cooperatives are, what are the benefits of being an active member, about the participation in decision-making process, and about the local character of cooperative banks. And what the other research shows, younger people are not so keen on globalization. They're thinking more and more about the local things, about local activities. And this is also, let's say, not only the challenge, but also an opportunity for cooperative banks that the bank should use to build up safer future. Thank you.
No, thank you. That comment about localization and globalization, I think, is, I mean, fascinating in a world where so many of the major banking groups are focusing on globalization. Isn't it interesting that when you actually talk to people in your own countries, localization is so important. Francesco, let's come to you. And I think one of the things that I think Mark was hinting at earlier, we'll come back to Mark in a few moments, but was that you know, the impact that you're seeing, or you know, what are you learning from your younger members? What are the ideas coming through the Giovanni Zucchi network that are actually having an impact far more widely across Fedecas in terms of, you know, are they coming up with product ideas that actually that are attractive to all populations of members, not just your younger ones, for example?
Yeah, well, as Mark was also highlighting, it's very, but the value, you talk about the value for a bank is easy to say. A bank that has demonstrated a lot of attention to the initiatives of Giovanni Zucchi network is, of course, more attractive. But what we want to say, it's important to understand that our cooperative model is by design intergenerational, because due to the fact that the capitalized asset imposed by our business model is by definition for the future generation. And it's very important for a bank not to look forward if you cannot simply look into the definition of the interest rates, the future, the intergenerational of our society. It's very important to understand and stress this fact to youth and to our intergenerational model. But let me add first that the technology, of course, is undoubtedly a strong attraction to young people. But what Mark was saying before, in my perspective as well, and I would like to underline as well, is it's essential to not see technology as an universal solution for engaging with the youth. Services must be developed from the technology, of course, but from the real needs of people and community. In this way, the paradigm shift lies at the heart of the dialogue with the young people. We have to invite them to not merely think young people as users of digital tools, but like carriers of value, engage with them, talk with them to their real needs. The true starting point, in my opinion, is always the territory, the direct engagement, the deep understanding of the social needs of that territory. That's why my previous speech was related to the significance of the territory. We have to think that it's not technology the only essential solution to engage young cohorts. We have to connect with them. In that sense, our banks are, of course, developing a lot of video in social medias, involving them with the social attraction of content and a lot of promotional activities in the social network, but to invite them to meet each other, to understand the real sense of community, and not only to be passive active users of the social network.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I think it brings us back, Mark, to you. Neon Blau is quite a new venture for you. So I guess the questions are: is it fulfilling your expectations so far, or indeed have you been blown away by its success? And what are the most important achievements so far, beyond being able to call your senior directors by their first name?
Yes, thanks, Mel, for this question. Maybe just give me one chance to show you something, because you were talking about social media. Just let me grab 1 minute. We started using TikTok for young people. We started 1.5 years ago, and what's really fascinating is that we have like 100,000 followers, which is not quite a lot for Germany. But there are a couple of videos where we have like 2 million views, or there are even some we have like almost 10 million views on TikTok. And the interesting thing is also our board, they were quite skeptical. Should we work together with TikTok? What about data security? It's from China. But at the end, if you want to reach this target group, I think it's necessary. And those are also people from Neon Blau. There's no influencer. There's just people inside from organization with a clear color coding around orange and blue. So from my point of view, that works quite well. But let me come back to a question, Robin. Yes, Neon Blau is quite new, but it had already exceeded many of our expectations. And because we didn't start with a fully definite roadmap, I didn't have any kind of key performance indicators with Neon Blau. It was just more or less to have an open space for real exchange with the Gen Z. And the biggest achievement so far, which you just pointed out, was the first one is, and it's very easy from my point of view, trust. We've built trust with young people and our cooperative system. And that's, from my point of view, nothing which I can buy with a TikTok or Instagram campaign, because you have to prove it. And now when the Neon Blauer, they have their own LinkedIn account, they have their own Instagram account, and then they are posting videos when they sit next to our CEO. And that's much more worse than any kind of TikTok video. And this gives trust. And the second one is visibility. Neon Blauers help us to see in new spaces, even in events at universities, and where banks usually don't have a voice. And the last thing, it gave us a momentum. The momentum that a lot of board members just start to listen to the young people. And in every bank, they have young people. And now probably they have opened their ears to talk to them. So in brief, from my point of view, those were the expectations we already met. And of course, we had also our downsides. So Alena was mentioned that we have also a circle regarding sustainability. And we had 3 members of Neon Blau who were arguing with our CEO and said, you are investing in companies who destroy the rainforest in Brasilia, and we want you to stop it immediately. And we said, no, we actually can't. And then they quit Neon Blau. And that's even part of the story. We can't fulfill every need the Gen Z has. That's also a point of truth. That's like my perspective, Robin.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your honesty, Mark. I think we're coming on in a moment to the lessons learned, and I think that's the positives and I think the opportunities, but also the challenges. I think is so important. But just before we do, I think the question, the ultimate question here is: have any of you yet developed mechanisms really to measure the real impact of young person engagement is having on the bank, on your respective banks or banking groups, or is that still a work in progress? I'm taking silence to me it's still work in progress. Okay.
If you can add a little bit, we are working on that, but also the fact that we are collecting all the initiatives in a website is not measuring the impact, but it's like collecting all the initiatives that 80,000, you said, members of the cooperative banks are doing in the territory. Is a kind of first KPI to understand if there is a real impact on the territory as well. And so we are on the data collection of the of the process.
It might be something that, again, we do a further workshop on at some stage. I spotted earlier that we have one of our Australian colleagues on the line who I know has done a lot of work in this space. So maybe we can bring some groups together around the EACV table to help explore that and share good ideas. Because it doesn't strike me as competitive, but it does strike me as incredibly important to our collective futures. So look, shall we just move on? We're just about on time, but shall we just move on to some of the lessons learned so far from your initiatives in the 3 countries? And I'm really keen, when we get to lessons learned, people usually start saying what went wrong, what didn't work. But I think there's also the questions of what's really worked that you want to put more energy into, more investment into, and what do you see as the real opportunities going forward? So there's that. There's a quote here that says from the English or is English or Irish playwright Oscar Wilde, about experience is the name we give to our mistakes, but actually experience is also the name that we give to our successes when we reflect back on them. So Mark, let's start with you. What do you think? What do you think about what would you like to put far more effort into, and are there any things that perhaps you'd share that that perhaps weren't worth pursuing, or you've, with hindsight, you view as saying wouldn't quite have done it that way?
Yeah, I like the quote of Oscar Wilde because it reminds me that learning is only possible if we are willing to make mistakes. And for our organization in Germany, that's not so easy. So our failure culture, let's put it, it's not highly developed from my point of view. And some of our early missteps with Neon Blau were more or less internal. So I think the board and us, we totally underestimated how much freedom and trust young people really need. So we started off setting up a agenda for the Neon Blau meeting. We tried to write down the notes of the meeting. They weren't able to deal with it, and so we had to stop it. But all our board members, they were used to it. So only last week, Elena was asked, could you send me the notes of the meeting from last week? And she said, no, we don't have it. And of course, we were much too structured at the beginning. We came with timelines and approval process, and it didn't work at all. And some say, oh, look, that's Gen Z. They are lazy. They don't want to work. We can't deal with them. How will it ever be possible that they will pay for our pension and things like this? But we had to give them freedom and liberty and so forth. And the thing is, Robin, what we experienced then, that co-creation means letting go. Of course, not completely, but enough to give them space to make real innovation. And the German cooperative organization wasn't ready for this. So we had a couple of learnings, and we had a couple of really sad emails, and also like emails which were not fair regarding Elena and myself. We have been a lot of criticism from inside that we give them much too much freedom, but since then we've adjusted and we moved from control to collaboration, and that was also a change process for the internal organization. And it's still a way to go, to be honest.
I don't think it ever finishes, does it, actually?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I mean, again, thank you so much for being so honest, Mark, because I think it's always, I think, sometimes quite difficult to talk about the things that we regret rather than just talk about our successes. And I think it is important that we do both. Małgorzata, let's come to you. What about the experiences in Poland? What would you like to see more of what perhaps wouldn't you have done in the same way?
As I already mentioned, the discussion about the necessity to attract younger generation to cooperative banking started a couple of years ago, so we don't have much experience. However, the first thing that I would like to mention is keeping up the pace with technological change. So we cannot attract younger generation without offering attractive products and attractive solutions. So cooperative banks must keep up the pace with technological change. Then we need to listen to the younger generation, and of course we can listen to their voices in a different way. However, the examples that we discussed already from Germany, from Italy, and also one Polish example shows that we try to attract younger generation and listen to them and engage them in the decision-making process. The next thing is we need to allow them to feel important to us. Okay, and this is the challenging thing for bankers, because bankers sometimes think we are the most important. Okay, yes, we are the most important. We are very important because we are doing a great job in the economy. However, this young generation is also very important, and we need to make them comfortable and by feeling that they are important to us, and we listen to their opinions. And I think that the greatest challenge probable for the future will be the technological side of keeping up the pace with all the new technologies offered on the market. And another thing, we must assure that the words are going hand in hand with deeds. So what we communicate to the younger generation must be also confirmed in the things that bankers are offering or doing, or the way in which they are working and treating young people. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic, and so important that that last point about matching words and deeds. I think we all recognise the technology challenge, although. I sometimes, in more challenging moments, I do ask, in a world of AI and avatars and bots and agentic AI, how do we actually maintain any customer relationships if technology is making all the decisions? But we might find the regulators are suddenly our best friends in that space. We'll see. But anyway, Francesco, it is up to you to leave us with a very positive final comment. So there's a little challenge, a challenge for Italy.
Yeah, I will try to do that. Let me say, it's important to sometimes look outside, from my perspective, from the Italian side of the cooperative banks, to look outside our working perimeter. I mean, sometimes we talk to each other being a little bit self-referential. It's important to open the door, let the fresh air comes in, and acquire the shared knowledge that other sectors have some missteps, that we can replicate their best practices, and then we are able to share these common values. It's not copying from the other, it's just to changing the mindset and try to understand if we can do something better. Of course, as Professor Todzowska was saying, we are important. But it's important to narrate also that we are not only an industrial bank that is working good and doing good things, but we have to narrate also we are more than a bank. We are a community. We are a participation model on the economy. We have a vision of the sustainability of the territories. We have to open the doors to this perspective, in my opinion. And of course, when we talk to each other and we share these challenges for the future, we have to bear in mind that for the society we are working with, we have to look at the public happiness, to the bigger picture, not only to the individual interest of our first group, the second group, this model, this structure. Look at the public happiness of the territory, to the common ground, to the common good, because at the end, relationship matter for the genuine happiness. And actually, we are doing credit to people to make them feel happier, and we want to share with youth and with the bank the stories they maybe are kept silent because they don't have credit. They are hidden through the economic or social power for being in the society. So we have to spread the joy of being credit and being proud of our work for the public for the public happiness and not for the public for the individual interest. I will add that. And of course, I support what the other speakers was saying around artificial intelligence and digital tools we have to innovate. That's my perspective, Robin.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I love the, I really do. What a wonderful note to end on about just the importance of public happiness and indeed the cooperative banking sector contributing positively to that. And I think if we look at the history of all, I'm a fan of looking backwards to history as an inspiration for where we go forward. Building on that route, I think Francesco, you were sort of looking at that a little bit earlier when you said, you were talking about, you were talking about the model by design being intergenerational. We inherit from our predecessors. The bank or the building society or the credit union that we have, and it is our responsibility to pass it on. And when people talk about stewardship, I think it's important to say, it's classic to say we pass it on in a better state than we found it. I think the challenge actually is to pass it on in a state that is fit for the future. So not only is it better, but it is fit for the future. And I think one of the privileges we have in this sector in not being so focused on very short-term results is that we can think every now and then about, what's the legacy that we leave for our future generations? So long after we've left our respective organizations, what's the legacy that we have left for the future generations in our individual organizations and then in our sectors and indeed in the whole cooperative banking community? And I think that, I was also taken, Mark, with your comment about the failure culture not being highly developed in Germany. I was with one of our members, the board of one of our members a short while ago, and we were talking exactly about, innovation and trying things out and failing fast. And they just turned around and said, we're not very good at failing fast. And I thought that's one of those, one of those things that hasn't yet translated from the tech industry, or indeed several other industries, into our financial services sector yet. But look, everyone, thank you so much. I think we've had a fascinating discussion this afternoon in all three parts of the webinar. So, from the introduction to the two interviewers to this panel session, it's been an amazing afternoon. I've been trying to write as many notes as I can. I don't think I can read any of them now, but I'm hoping that we're going to get some really good summaries from our EACB colleagues of the learnings, the benefits, and the real benefits of sharing these experiences. Because I think again, we've laid it out in three different ways, but Mark, you laid it out in numbers. If the population of Germany has an average age of 47, your customers have an average age of 50, and your members 55, that sort of sets the challenge quite nicely, doesn't it? As to that's something you need to change. And if you're thinking about really healthy organisations, do you want to be around the national average? You want to be even slightly younger than the national average? Is that sort of but you certainly don't want to be to be heading for a long way out. So look, a huge thank you to everyone. A huge thank you to all our delegates for taking part this afternoon. I know that Nina and colleagues would love to have have your feedback as to what you found valuable, what you've taken away, what more you'd like to hear from, and what more we can, what more we can convene as such a powerful group of cooperative banks to share and set a really positive future. Sounds like a future based on localization, and a future based solidly on cooperative banks and the communities in which they operate. Nina, you popped up on the screen. Does that mean you'd like the final word?
Yeah, may I just thank you very much, Robin, for leading us through this great webinar and really well framing and moderating the exchange with the young generation and our esteemed professors and members of our member organizations. And for sure, there will be so many insights as well to take up at the ECB level. Especially, I see the Cooperative Identity Forum a good place to further reflect on these issues, and as well in our ECB Academic Forum. And may I thank all the different contributors to the exchange and all of you who were interested to listen to what was discussed today.